Welcome to Black Man Speak. I'm your co-host, VJR Stewart.
And I'm your co-host TD3. It is Wednesday, the 21st of May, 2025, Jim. And if it's Wednesday night,
It's certainly Black Man Speak. So let's give a shout out to Count Basie for providing our theme music, which I jammed to before the show behind the cameras. Y'all can't see me. To For Us Films in our own studio, providing our virtual studio. And if you haven't already, please hit that like button. It helps us with the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel. Even if you've already subscribed, just check to make sure that you still subscribe. And if you're here watching the show live, invite a friend, a family member, a neighbor, co-worker, guy off the street if you want, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other to watch the show with you so you guys will have something interesting to talk about. So with that being said, Tom, we're going to do what we do best, which is bring information about the Black community to social media. And no one does it better.
all right, Jimmy, we're going to go ahead and start. We have a jam-packed show this evening for national and international stories, Jimmy. So we have a great show. We don't have anyone famous who has passed over the last week, but I would like to kindly announce the homegoing of one of my community moms back in the day when I was a kid. Her name was Miss Margaret Allen, and I hadn't seen her in quite a while, but I used to be best friends with her son. Well, son, she had three sons, Corey, Daryl, and Fred. And she was one of those mothers, man, who was regal, who was a mother's mother, someplace that you could always go to their house, man, and you have a place to go to outside of your own house. So when they say it takes a village to raise a child, she was definitely a part of that village. And so I definitely want to send my condolences and my love to the Allen family at the loss of the matriarch of that family. She will definitely be sorely missed. God rest in peace, Miss Margaret. We know that you are in a better place right now. All right, let's go ahead and get to our stories right now. For those of you who have not, make sure you get in the chat line. We'll recognize everybody in the chat line in a couple of minutes. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are on these stories. So first, we will go throwback for those who were back in the music industry, back in the hip hop days, the iconic group Salt-N-Pepa.
Salt and pepper.
Yeah, known for groups like Push It, I'll Take Your Man, and Get Up, is set to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year in 2025. Now it is also the year that they're going to be taking their record label to court, Jimmy. Sherry, Salt James, and Sandra Pepper Denton filed a lawsuit on May 19th against Universal Music Group, UMG, accusing the music label of violating the U.S. Copyright Act of 1976, which give the artists the right to terminate copyright agreements and reclaim ownership of their recordings 35 years after the original contract, which for them was 1986. The female rap duo claimed they filed termination notices in 2022, but UMG refused to return their master recordings. Instead, the label allegedly blocked some of their hit songs from streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. UMG has indicated that it will hold plaintiffs' rights hostage, even if it means tanking the value of plaintiffs' music catalog and depriving their fans of access to their work. The lawsuit suggests that this is why Congress actually updated the copyright law to protect artists who sign contracts early in their careers, often without leverage, only to watch their works become more valuable sometimes over time. Before 1976, revisions, artists had to wait for 56 years to reclaim their rights. Congress shortened that window to 1935 in the 1976 Act, recognizing that new artists often agree to one-sided deals when they're young and unknown. UMG claimed that Salt-N-Pepa songs were works made for hire, meaning the label, not the artists, own them and the group can't reclaim the rights. But Salt-N-Pepa argued their contracts show otherwise, and that their songs weren't created by employees or under the specific conditions required to qualify as works made for hire. The lawsuit also notes that Salt-N-Pepa's music still holds cultural relevance, with recordings that have earned millions over the years and continue to connect with fans, highlighted by a viral 2014 Geico commercial. Salt-N-Pepa are seeking financial damages and a permanent injunction to keep UMG from interfering with their rights.
Well, Tom, I mean that's going to be a little tricky. Um, I'm trying to think back to my contract law classes, and UMG may have a point. If they hired the writers, producers, to write the songs, and you just paid Salt-N-Pepa, the group, to just perform, then they may be in the right that they actually own the music. This is why it's important, Tom, if you're an artist, write your own damn music. So that way you get the credit for it. No one can take that away from you. Um, and it gives you better leverage in the long term. So we'll keep an eye on this, see how it turns out.
Yeah, an interesting thing about it is, a lot of musicians, they become very famous, but, a lot of the money that people think that artists are making, a lot of that, the lion's share of that money goes to the record label, Jimmy, and you see a lot of very famous artists, unfortunately, who get taken granted of, don't make as much money as we think that they do. And a lot of them really struggle, even though the record labels still may be making millions of dollars off their music.
Well, that's true, Tom. And so we know that the media sales, the artists make very little off of that. The record companies make some money, and God forbid they give you an advance, which is really just a loan.
It is.
It's your royalties, and you end up owing them money in the long run. And so you never really collect any royalties for a very long time. So artists really have to end up going on tour in order to make a living. So, but like I said, man, I think. I don't know if it was trying to think of Curtis Mayfield, or it was Curtis Mayfield, or who's the blues singer? I'm trying to think about
What group?
Ray Charles.
Oh, Ray Charles.
Well, one of them was like the first to
That
own
was
their
Ray Charles.
masters.
That was Ray Charles.
That was Ray Charles. Okay, I know Curtis Mayfield soon followed, but that is the way to go. Write your own music, own your masters, keep control of the rights to your music and what you produce. If you want to license it out to the record company or to others, then do that. But like I said, sometimes it's kind of hard when you're first starting out to get that kind of deal. But here's the thing: if you have talent and you know you're going to be a success, don't do multi-album deals. Do one album, make a little money, and then you know what? Next time around, go it yourself. And you got to put your own money up to produce it. So, wish them luck, man. We'll be curious to see how this turns out.
Right, and Jimmy, I don't know if you recall this, but there was a very public and ugly fight between Prince and his
and Sony.
Exactly, because he had signed this long deal, and he of course changed his name to the artist formerly known as, and wrote "slave" on the side of his face. And I mean, as much music as he made, and as much money as we think he made, he was saying, "Look, we're like slaves."
And Tom, this is a huge megastar in Prince. I believe Michael Jackson had some fallout with his record company also, but this is not. I mean, a few of them brought attention to it. Most of them just go along with the program because they have to. They have no choice because you're not a Prince or a Michael Jackson. You don't have the kind of star power. But even the guys who have the kind of star power have the same problem. They don't get paid for their work. The record companies set the deals and the terms. Like I said, they advance you a little money so you can live fairly comfortable. But if you don't go out and do concert tours, have some other merchandise and deals going on, and you don't manage the money well, you may find yourself broke with a multi-billion-dollar catalog.
Yep, that is crazy and unfortunate, Jimmy. We'll definitely keep an eye on this, and we will go ahead and move forward to our next story. We talked about this maybe a month or so ago, but Texas homeowners could see another tax cut, property taxes, that is. Texas homeowners are a step closer to a bigger tax break after the Texas State House of Representatives gave unanimous preliminary approval of a set of legislative proposals. House members advanced bills aimed at giving homeowners relief on the property taxes they pay towards school districts, the biggest chunk of a property owner's tax bill. Senate Bill 4, introduced by State Senate Paul Betancourt, a Houston Republican, would change the state's homestead exemption, which reduces how much of a home's value can be taxed to pay for public schools from $100,000 to $140,000. Senate Bill 23, another Betancourt proposal would raise a separate homestead exemption for homeowners who are older or have disabilities from $10,000 to $60,000. Both bills must come back before the House for a final vote. The Senate will have a sign-off on changes the House made to the bills before they go ahead for Governor Greg Abbott's desk. Providing bigger tax breaks to homeowners is a key component of a deal brokered by Republicans in the Texas legislature to lower tax bills for Texans, who pay among the highest property taxes in the country. The other major piece is giving business owners greater exemptions on their inventory. Texas is one of the few states that taxes businesses' inventory. House Bill 9 by State Representative Morgan Meyer, Republican from University Park, would exempt up to $125,000 of business inventory from being taxed by school districts, cities, counties, and other taxing entities. Under current law, businesses don't have to pay taxes on that property if it's worth $2,500 or less. The owner of a home valued at $302,000, for instance, the typical home value last year would have paid more than $500 on their 2024 school taxes had the $140,000 exemption been in place that year. That's when the exemption is combined with $3 billion in cuts to school tax rates proposed in the state's upcoming 2-year budget. Texas lawmakers plan to spend $51 billion on cutting property taxes over the next 2 years. However, voters in November will have to have the final say on whether the tax relief takes effect. The changes must be approved by voters because they would each involve amending the Texas Constitution.
So I'm glad to see this bill is being pushed through. I hope it goes through. Unfortunately, Tom, Texas has a lot of great things going for them. Property tax is not one of them.
Nope.
And when we're competing against other states like Kentucky and Tennessee, where people are starting to go also, Florida has high property taxes also, although they have some really good things going for them also. But property taxes seem to be hurting both states. So I'm glad to see they're doing some relief. And Tom, I want to clarify something. So when the bill says inventory, many years ago when I opened my very first business, consulting business, I had a penthouse floor. I spent about 50 grand, which is a lot of money now and still back then, 40 years ago, was a lot of money. Just on furniture, Tom. Computers,
Jimmy?
Huh?
Just on furniture?
On furniture, Tom. Solid wood desk. I want the good stuff, man. The cherry wood, not the plywood, press wood, not IKEA. But anyway, man, I spent a lot of money furnishing the place. And it wasn't a good 3-4 months after the doors were open that I got a bill from the Dallas Appraisal District. I was downtown, and they wanted $4,600. And I'm like, well, what is this for? And they said it's an inventory tax. I'm like, what inventory? We're a consulting firm. We sell knowledge.
Right.
But they were counting as inventory with my furniture, Tom.
How is your furniture inventory?
Because the company owned it. And so I learned the hard way that if you're in business, make sure your business doesn't own anything. You lease everything. So if you don't own it, they can't tax it. But if you do own it, you go out and buy a company vehicle, a truck, you buy furniture, computers. There's going to be some appraisal district that you sit in that's going to want their money. And then, God forbid, I was in the downtown area. So I was in 3 appraisal districts that overlapped. So I was getting tax bills from all 3 during the course of the damn year. So much so, man, that I never made that mistake again. So inventory.
Help me understand this, Jimmy. So they considered just because you owned it, they considered to be business inventory.
Anything that the company owns is inventory.
Okay.
It's not stuff that's there for you to sell. It's not just, I got a bunch of candy in the warehouse that's going out to sell, and they tax. No, they said they tax everything that the company owns. So when you fill out that inventory,
how did they find out that you had all this furniture?
Well, they first sneak you a report asking you to estimate, how much you have in computers, how much you have in furniture, this, that, and if you're honest the way I was, I filled it out honestly. I was proud to be able to say, I got about over $50,000 worth of furniture in my place. I wanted people to come see it. I really did it to impress clients and potential clients. And the funny thing, Tom, not one of our clients ever came to our office.
Oh
My
no.
my account managers always went to them to get contracts signed. Not one ever, other than friends and family who came and laid on the couch and lounged and drank. But yeah, not one of our clients ever came. All that money spent, so I could have been sitting in my garage as far as they were concerned. But yeah,
Wow.
inventory means anything that the company owns.
So the business lesson is lease, don't own.
Lease don't own if you're in business and you're starting to make money, because yeah, the more that you own, the property, the warehouse, the equipment, the trucks, cars, computers, desk, furniture. Yeah, some depending on what district you're in, some appraisal districts are gonna want their cut. So I'm glad to see that they are tightening up on this and giving some relief to homeowners and business people.
I guess you would have been covered by this amount then, huh, Jimmy?
I would have appreciated 40 years ago. I don't care now because I know better. What's our next story, T?
All right, next story, Jimmy. One of the nation's largest remaining antebellum plantation burns to the ground just a week ago. The largest remaining antebellum plantation in Louisiana just burned to the ground on May the 15th. The south wing of Nottoway Resort, a former antebellum plantation turned travel destination and wedding venue, was engulfed in flames recently. The 64-room 53,000 square foot structure was in a pile of rubble by 10 p.m. The cause of the fire remains unknown, and there have been no reported injuries as of date. Since the 1980s, the property has welcomed visitors from around the world who came to appreciate its architecture and confront the legacies of its era. Nottoway was originally built in 1858 by John Hampton Randolph. By 1860, 155 enslaved Africans were on the property. Several local fire stations and mutual aid organizations tried to assist in fighting the fire. The parish president described Nottoway as a cornerstone of their tourism economy, noting that it's become a popular wedding venue, travel destination, and resort. He stated, its absence will be felt deeply, and their community state and by many who found meaning in this preservation. It stood as both a cautionary monument, and a testament to the importance of preserving history so that future generations can learn and grow from it.
Tom, I could say to that, man, sometimes it's easier to light a match to it than to sell it.
So what you're trying to say is that they did it for insurance purposes.
Yes. Yes.
Say it ain't show, say it ain't so.
Yes, Tom, the burn to the ground like that. Yeah, this is not like a kitchen fire or something or a spark in the wires. Come on. And you don't have a fire suppression system throughout the house, a business for wedding venues and other events that are going on. That's generally part of the, that's par for the course to have some kind of fire suppression system throughout the house. Who's going to want to go to a venue that can go up in flames at any moment? So not only was the water turned off, the fire suppression system turned off, nothing seemed to work. But I'd imagine that the owners who were on the place probably not crying any tears as they sit there and wait for that big insurance check to come in.
I can imagine it would be a very big one for
it's going to be a big one, Tom.
Size and magnitude. That has got to be a massive insurance payoff.
It's going to be a big one.
And
so this wasn't just a home that you can value as a resident. This was a business, and I'm pretty sure that the probably the books have been inflated this last year to show the place made a ton of money, and that the owners are now at a huge loss. So they want that general liability policy and everything else they have on the house and that property to kick in now. So
I thought it was pretty interesting that the entire thing, not just a small thing. I mean,
no, Tom. When you burn it down, you have to burn it down right, man. You can't be, like I said, it can't be a bathroom, it can't be a kitchen, it can't be a room where somebody fell asleep smoking in the bed or something. No, you can't have that kind of damage. When you burn something down, Tom, you bring the pros in, and you burn the whole thing down. And so, like, if you want to get rid of somebody and make sure you do it right, who do you call? You call those Clintons, man.
Well, Jimmy, I would say this much. That's a pretty massive structure for the entire thing to...
The entire thing.
To rubble, they said to rubble by 10 p.m. Jimmy. That doesn't sound like an accident or
No,
somebody.
Tom, that means you brought a pro in who
Somebody,
guaranteed results.
somebody smoking on the premises.
No smoking on the premises, no sparks, no something just got to control. No, none of that little stuff, man. That can be fixed. No, you bring a pro in, and the pros know how to burn it to the ground. So by the time, even if the fire trucks do make it out there, it's still going to burn to the ground.
Jimmy, I think that should be investigated. We need to get the Department of Justice to investigate this as potential fraud, insurance fraud. Jimmy, we need the Department of Justice to go after this now.
Well, we'll see what happens. Oh, okay, Tom. What's our next story, man?
Talking about the Department of Justice, the Chicago mayor,
who's in trouble?
Is in trouble. Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, is being investigated by the Department of Justice Office of Civil Rights after he made remarks boasting about the hiring of African Americans in his administration. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, nominated by Donald Trump, announced the probe in a letter. She revealed that her office is investigating whether Mayor Johnson's employment practices are discriminatory based upon race in violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The probe was launched after Johnson's remarks at the Apostolic Church of God, in which he highlighted that staff in key roles within his administration, including Chief of Operations Officer, Budget Director, and others, happen to be African American. The mayor explained, when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else. He added, having people in my administration that will look out for the interest of everyone, and everyone means you have to look out for the interest of Black folks too, because that hasn't happened. That's how we ensure long-term sustainable growth. In her letter, Assistant AG Harmeet Dillon noted that her office was not yet concluded whether Johnson violated any civil rights discrimination laws, but encouraged his office to cooperate as it determines whether there are any patterns or practices per se. The investigation escalates for the first time the Trump administration's months-long push to eliminate the practice of DEI on the city level. During his first days in office, President Trump signed the executive order prohibiting DEI programs in federal government and urging federal offices to prevent the practices in the private sector. According to the mayor's office, 30.5% of employees identify as white, 34.3% identify as Black. So he's got the microscope on him, Jimmy.
Okay, Tom, let me read between the lines and tell you what the story doesn't tell you. So Chicago has not been very cooperative with the Trump administration for its immigration reform and wrap-ups. So this is another one of those cases where Brandon needs to go kiss the ring.
He got to go kiss the ring too, Jimmy.
Got to go kiss the ring, Tom. Because if he doesn't, they do have the goods on him. He has made public statements about being discriminatory. So if you're going to be discriminatory, do it like the NFL does it. Keep it on the DL. You bring some Black coaches in there and give them a courtesy interview. Like, okay, man, I need you to come. You're going to sit here for an hour. We're going to chit chat, and then you're going to go home. We're not going to hire you, but hey, we got to interview a Black coach. So let's just get this over with, and we'll throw in some goodies, a signed football or something for your time. So you got to be smart about it, Tom. You can't be openly saying that you're trying to hire more Black people in an age where they're trying to crack down on DEI hires, and you're not cooperating with them on the immigration front. So they're going to look to dig up anything they can on the mayor and squeeze him. So he needs to go and kiss the ring now. And
now, what does kiss the ring look like in his case?
It means call Tom Holman up and say, hey, we're ready to cooperate with ICE, with Border Patrol, with anybody else, Department of Justice, whatever raids you want to conduct in the city of Chicago. The police will cooperate, and you won't have any more trouble from us. That's what kiss the ring looks like now. Because if not, they're going to put you on an investigation. It may not go anywhere, but guess what? Those $800,000-$900,000 an hour lawyers that you're going to have to hire to keep the feds off your butt and keep you out of jail, they can tie your time up in expense. And last time I checked, Brandon's not necessarily a rich man.
No, he's not.
Yeah, so they can put you in harm's way, bankrupt you just on legal fees. So it's best bet, if you listen to this show, you should, or someone in Chicago passes on to the mayor, Go ahead and kiss the ring now. Stop being part of the resistance. Call Tom Holman up. Tell him you're ready to cooperate. You have my full cooperation. And wink, wink. I need this investigation from Pam Bunny to go away.
Just like the one with the mayor of New York.
Yes.
Just like the mayor of New
You're
York.
Adam.
Yeah, there you go.
Get
Eric
with the
Adams,
program, man.
they were about to try to send him off someplace, and then all of a sudden he came out. I don't want to say shining like a rose, but he kissed the ring. He didn't kiss the ring, Jimmy. I think he licked the ring and cleaned the ring, and everything else.
Tom, you know what? And that is much better than having to guard your private hole in jail. So kiss the ring, lick the hand, whatever you have to do. Bow on one knee, it doesn't matter. Your job is to keep your freedom, stay out of jail, and keep guys from making you their love interest in behind closed doors.
But I thought he said he was only going to be a dictator on day one.
Tom, this is not dictator, this is politics. If he was a dictator, he would just order you to do something. They're not ordering anyone to do it. You want to be part of the resistance, go ahead and be part of it.
Otherwise,
if we ever find the goods on you, don't expect us to go easy. We're going to squeeze very hard at that point. If they get your balls in a vice, they don't release the grip on it. They tighten it up.
What Jimmy? Who do you think is the most effective mafia? The old school mafia, the Italian mafia, or the government? You can't hardly tell the difference.
Tom, you can't distinguish between the two of them at this point. The government, you have a little more sway over because you have representatives that represent you. But in the end, let's just face it, we're talking about the White House, and we're talking about a president that takes things personally. He holds grudges.
Yes, he does.
And I'm pretty sure he was not very happy coming back here in his Homeland Security and Kristi Noem and then Tom Holman talk about how Chicago is not cooperating with their raids and tipping people off. So, yeah, now they got the mayor. They got something on the mayor. Yeah, they're going to continue to squeeze. So his best bet, Tom, forget this nonsense about being part of the resistance. Forget that nonsense about fighting the orange man and going up against them. Because trust me, your party is not going to support you in the end. When they come to put the handcuffs on to throw you in jail, even if you can bail yourself out, hire lawyers, you're going to go broke fighting them. They have an unlimited amount of money. I believe the Department of Justice is a multi-billion-dollar agency. They have nothing but lawyers and nothing but money to come after you. So my advice to him is just not worth fighting against the administration. You know what? Fight the next administration who may not be so ruthless.
So forget principle, huh?
Tom, okay, you can hold on to your principles, and you could be wondering which one of those bubbles is going to try to make you his girlfriend when you're in jail. So you decide.
Well, if he goes to federal prison, that would be a non-issue. You usually don't have bubbles in federal prison.
Tom, that's if you go to a nice.
Typically, when you're talking about bubbles, they're usually in state prison.
If you go to a nice federal prison, Tom, they have some federal prisons that are worse than the state prisons. You don't hear about them too much, but not all federal prisons are glorified country clubs. I mean, some of them are hardcore prisons. The Supermax is one of them, but yeah, they have more federal prisons that are not so nice. Look at Leavenworth, not so nice place. Yeah, it's probably worse than whatever some of the worst state prisons are. Leavenworth is probably ranked right up there with them.
Gotcha.
So,
all right,
kiss the ring, Tom, and move on with your life. Get with the program.
Your recommendation is sell out. I say fight the good fight.
No more fight the power. Not against this guy.
Let's acknowledge a couple of people on the chat line. We've got cousin Audrey K on the chat line. I want to thank you for this evening. Thank you for your condolences. Also, you got Miss Tanya Hall on the line. I want to thank you for joining us this evening. Two of our most loyal listeners, cousin Audrey K and Miss Tanya. I want to thank you, of course, for continuing to support us. We love you both. Also got a interesting Jimmy Chicago News 101 says today's City Hall meeting, Harold Washington name wasn't mentioned. Not exactly sure what that means because
Harold Washington name what?
Wasn't mentioned. I'm not exactly sure what that meant. It said today's City Hall meeting, Harold Washington name wasn't mentioned. And I'm not exactly sure what that meant. Of course, Harold Washington has been long gone. Maybe they'll provide a little clarification for us. But either way, let's go ahead and go to our next story. Jimmy, we're gonna, try to spend a little bit more time on what's going on international affairs as well. Mali in West Africa negotiating contracts with second largest gold mining company in West Africa. A Malian court hearing will determine whether to put a Canadian gold mining complex under provisional administration, essentially handing it over to the Malian government. Barrick Mining, previously Barrick Gold, and Mali's government have been at odds since 2023 over a new mining code that would increase taxes, giving Mali's government a greater share of the mining revenue. Mali is seeking more revenue from its mining sector, believing that it has been exploited by foreign interests for decades now. Barrick will have to comply with new rules if it plans to keep operating in the gold-rich country of Mali. Barrick, a Canadian company, says it is invested heavily in the Malian economy over more than 20 years and accuses the government of moving the goalposts as well as unfairly detaining some of its executives in an attempt to whitemail the company. No pun intended. Mali is a major gold producing country, by the way, with gold being the most important exporting, comprised of over 80% of its total exports. The mining sector employs more than 2 million, about 10% of the Malian population, and is a vital source of revenue for the country. Most other multinational mining companies in Mali have already agreed to the new code. Australia's Resolute Mining reached an agreement after the chief executive was detained for over a week in Mali. The aim of the request is to restart operations at the complex, which have been suspended for months now. Granting the request would represent a major escalation of the dispute between the West African state and the Canadian miner. Operations at the mines were halted in mid-January after the government seized 3 metric tons of gold worth $317 million, accusing the company of not fulfilling its tax obligations. The government had been blocking Barrick's gold exports since early November, with an average annual income, Jimmy, of $840 per year. Again, an average annual income of $840 per year. Mali is one of the poorest countries in the world, with an average person living on just over $2 per day. So they are saying, you know what? We're renegotiating terms. It's time for us to get our money back.
Yeah, so Mali is historically, it's been one of the richest gold countries in the world for a very long time. King Sundiata took so much gold to Mecca that it just flooded the market with the amount of gold he was able to bring. They've always had riches of gold for them to be so poor. The thing that they need to be concerned about is that you have to balance the interests of the people against the business interests. If you go into just taking state control of private property, you end up like Venezuela. It sounds good initially until you run through all of the resources and there's no more to be produced. And so you need to keep a balance. But what they need to do is focus on, like, for instance, if you have drilling permits, don't renew any more drilling permits. That the next drilling operation, the next land that you open up for drilling is someone locally within your own country. You have to start doing these things domestically. And if you want to tax companies and put a fund aside in order to help make that happen, to have your own internal mines operational, then do that as you slowly not renew leases on land to the companies that are already there. But you want companies to have an interest in coming to develop and mine the land out. They have to have a vested interest in doing that. They're not doing it for the goodness of their heart. They're doing it to make money. But you also want to make money. You want to make sure that your resources are not just sold for pennies on the dollar when gold time is at an historic high in value and price.
Agreed.
So, but you have to do it strategically. You have to do it the right way. And you can't do it as Venezuela and some other socialist countries have done it, because that scares away any kind of economic investment from on the outside, from people who want to come in and help you develop these resources. And so going forward, What you want to do is joint ventures. You want to partner with someone. Hey, we'll put up $50 million and give you some land leases, but we split the profits. If you mine out $300 million in gold that we were able to confiscate and sit on, um, Tom, I would imagine that the tax on that is probably very little. If the government is now recognizing that what's going out does not somehow balance out to the interests of our government, which are paying us to take it out. So at this point, I'm pretty sure you've recouped whatever investment you made into the mining operation. So going forward, we need to look at some partnership deals, not necessarily a land lease and tax deal. So we don't want to tax your revenue. Yeah, we want to partner with you on the revenue. 25%, 50%, whatever the number is going to be, but that's what it's going to be as a new partnership. Take it or leave it. If you leave it, okay, fine. We'll find another
Agreed.
company that has mine experience. They'd be glad to step in here and partner with us and take over your operations.
You bring up some very salient points, Jimmy. I think the key is long term operating in the best interest of the country, the best interest of the people as well. They need to make sure that in these agreements that they have with these companies that they are really developing their people to be able to take over and build and maintain their own mines at the end of the day. To your point, unfortunately, you have a lot of foreign interests who get resources, very valuable resources for pennies on the dollars. They're able to refine and resell these products through a very vast distribution chain and make billions, hundreds of billions to trillions of dollars. And of course, the government and the people of most of the African countries are broke. They are not able to defend themselves. They're not able to invest in infrastructure. So then they have to go to companies like China. They have to go to companies like Russia in order to invest in their country so they can build roads, bridges, either manufacturing plants and things of that nature. And so, they've got to think a little bit differently long term. The problem, on the most part, has been you've had too many heads of states who are really the puppets of foreign interests, and so they're not doing anything in the long-term interest of the country. They're doing more in the long-term interest of their family only. And so in this case, this is a unique situation where you actually have military leaders who are actually working in the best interest, at least attempting to do so, by changing the tune as to the money that's being cycled through their country so that the people and the country will have a prosperous future. So, we'll see this, how this works out, and we'll definitely continue to monitor this. But when you consider the states of the Sahel region, including Mali that we're talking about now, of course, Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, probably one of the most important people in the world right now, and of course Niger as well, who are partnering and collaborating on the security end, and who are also having conversations, economically, so that they can rebuild the western region of the continent. So we definitely hope that they're able to do the right things for their government and for their people, so Africa can come independent and not have to go kiss other countries' rings in order to get the things that they want. Because quite frankly, every country in the world outside of Africa should be coming to Africa to kiss their ring to get resources that they need in order to continue to make money.
Well, tell me, just one of those things of a lack of knowledge, man. The African people, just like black people here in America, don't realize their value, don't realize how talented they are, don't realize their capabilities because they bought into the white Jesus, white supremacy, that white is right, and so we have far too much of that going on, Tom, even on the African continent. The people of Mali don't know what they have. I tell you what, if the Mali government wants some advice, call us up. I'd have you free in a year. I'd go to negotiate all your contracts because I tell every one of them, I'm going to give you zero tax. We won't tax any of the gold that you mine out. Pull it out of the ground. But we are going to become partners in the long run. So either 50-50 or 60-40, but somewhere along those lines, we're going to get a bulk of the revenue from this operation. We're going to benefit just like you're benefiting, and it's going to be equal. So forget a company tax or income tax or any other tax as far as that matter. I give you zero taxes as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, if you don't sign this partnership agreement, then we won't renew any leases to any land or give you permits to operate here. Take it or leave it. And if you leave it, I promise you There are some mining companies around the world that'll be lined up to take that deal and come in here and take over, because half of a lot of money is better than no money at all.
I would agree with that, Jimmy. I would agree. So, of course, we wish them the best of luck. Interim President Simia Goita, who is now the current head of state of Mali, in his partnership, of course.
Call me.
Give me a holler.
Give me a holler. Brother, help you out.
All right. We've got
next story, T.
Next story. Rumors of a coup in West Africa, the Ivory Coast. Panic has struck the Ivory Coast in the West African country in the capital city of Abidjan, in what could potentially be the early stages of a military coup or uprising. Initial reports point to a crisis targeted against the existing government. Internet access is cut off across the nation, and limited information is currently unavailable. Over the past 2 years, over the past 2 days, over 30 people are estimated to be dead in clashes across different areas of the capital. The unrest follows widespread dissatisfaction with President Alassane Ouattara's administration, which has been accused of severe human rights violations or abuses, increasing poverty, and the maintenance of deep ties with the French, a major source of resentment by the people. No public appearances or official statements have been made since violence has erupted. The Ivory Coast also had a major coup in 1999, the civil war from 2002 to 2007, and 2010 to 2011, and a military mutiny in 2017. Some protesters have accused the president of being a puppet of foreign powers, particularly the French and the United States, with growing criticism of expansion of foreign military intervention in the region of the country near Burkina Faso, which people see as a threat to the destabilization progress made by Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger in liberating itself from French neocolonialism. National broadcasts are currently down there, and therefore no updates have been provided by state authorities. But we will definitely be keeping a close eye on this because
we'll keep a close eye on it, T.
What's that?
We'll keep a close eye on it. The problem I have with these military coups, sometimes the military leaders are better, they're more concerned about the people, try to put in some reforms, but you don't know what you're going to get in a military coup. A good leader, bad leader, or until the next leader comes along and kill you and take over the government, who may not be so good. And also, this points out to the weak constitutions that these countries have. You need a strong, very strong constitution that allows the people, such as here, we have the impeachment process. Presidents get out of line to such an extent that Congress can file charges and prosecute that president, and then if found guilty, kick him out of office. So some process like that needs to exist in the constitution of all these governments, so you don't have to rely on a military overthrow when the government goes off track.
Well, Jimmy, you make up a very good point. One interesting fact by most African countries that most people are not aware of is that most of their constitutions are so weak because they were written by European countries in order to ensure that they maintain access to resources when they were so-called decolonized. And so there is a design and a reason why most of their constitutions are so weak. They weren't written by Africans.
Well, Tom, nothing in Africa was done by Africans. The borderlines were not joined by Africans. The name of their countries were not they were not named by Africans. So it doesn't surprise me that these weak constitutions were not written by Africans. But so what? That doesn't mean that you can't have a constitutional convention and rewrite or amend your constitution. So I suggest, just like I stand up for Black people here in America, to stand up, straighten your back up, stop being a victim and crying about what white people are doing to you. And Africans need to stop crying about what the Europeans have done to them. Do what you have to do at this point to strengthen yourself and stand up for yourself. So next week, we're going to talk about the visit from the South African government to America.
We can talk about that. We've got a little time to talk about that right now if you want to, Jimmy.
Well, I mean, we can, but how the South African president got ambushed because he thought he was coming here to talk about tariffs and trade, and Trump wanted to talk about the white farmers being killed. So
Where's
Here,
the evidence?
huh?
Where's the evidence of
There's some evidence of it, but it's just regular crime, though, Tom. I mean, the land redistribution of our that took place after Mandela took power.
what?
That was 30, 40 years ago. There's no
But,
white farmers having their land taken from them
Jimmy,
and given
the
to
white
anyone.
folks, but Jimmy, 7% of the South African population is white, but they own 70% of the land. What redistribution?
There was some, Tom, the Zulu nation was able to get some of their land back. But here's the point, is that I don't think there's wholesale white genocide taking place.
There isn't.
Okay, we're talking about less than 1% of the population that's being killed, considering 99% of the folks in South Africa are dark skinned or mixed who are being killed. But here's the point, Tom. That's not the story. Here's the story I want everyone to understand what's at play. And this is why I get so frustrated when you talk about group survival here in America and white folk and black folks get really scared and start whispering. You know, you can't let white people hear you talk. Why not? A handful of white folks have been victimized and killed in South Africa, and our government is opening the doors for them, fast tracking citizenship and green cards and everything else to look out. Here's an administration looking out, a white person looking out for other white people. But when you start talking about black people looking out for black people, somehow we got to be quiet. We got to whisper. We got to tiptoe. Come on, man. We got to stop this nonsense. I keep saying this. Everybody looks out for their own self-interest. We've got to look out for our own black interests without apology. You think Trump is sitting there apologizing because he's looking out for white folks?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Or the black folks immigrating into America? You think the Latinos are apologizing for standing up for Latinos or Asian, standing up for Asian people, or even white people standing up for white people? No. The only people who are embarrassed by standing up for themselves are black people. And we've got to get past this. The African people got to get past this. We all got to understand that our salvation is coming through education and developing wealth. The fact that Mali has all this damn gold under the damn ground, more than probably any other nation in the world, and black folks are sitting here letting Europeans exploit them. I know the Mali government hadn't called any of us for advice or for the help, but we should be the first ones. If you're going to kick the Europeans out, we should be the first ones to fill the void. And it's not like we don't have some money also that we can't raise to take over those operations. The equipment is already there. It ain't like a mining company going to pack up 100-ton cranes and all the equipment and take it with them. You know, they're just going to, bodies are just going to leave. So we need to be able to fill the void, not just there, but across the African continent. Whenever they kick the French out, kick the Dutch out, the Portuguese, the Europeans, whenever they leave, they don't have to turn to the communists for support at that point, the Russians and the Chinese. Black folks should be the first ones in line. We should be making an emphasis on we're going to stand up for ourselves here and for black folks across the world, and we don't give a damn who knows, because this is what we're going to do. And stop apologizing for being pro-black. That doesn't make us anti-anything. It just means we're doing what other people are doing. So Trump is not apologizing for being pro-white. Asians, other ethnic groups are not apologizing for their pro-stand. So black people shouldn't have to apologize and be embarrassed about being pro-black.
Well, Jimmy, that would come along with acknowledging that so-called leaders, black leaders, I'll say, are not typically chosen by black folks. And those who are chosen by black folks, generally, a lot of times are attacked and or taken out by the federal government. And so the reality of it is a lot of these so-called spokespeople for the black community are actually elevated and wrapped around mass media, which of course is not controlled by our community. So we have to be very careful as to who we accept as being our so-called spokesperson. And number two, we have to get out of the spokesperson business and build culture that is absolutely going to promote our community, because at the end of the day, the folks who are considered to be what they used to call the HNIC isn't even chosen by our community. It's chosen by people who want to make sure that they maintain peaceful, pacifist communication between black folks. And that contributes to what you call this scared psychology that's unwilling to fight to the death for what your interests are, Jimmy. And the reality of it,
just like we covered last week, they open entertainment lanes for us, athletic lanes for us, and death lanes. You can form all the gangs you want, do all the drive-by, kill up all the people that you want. Here's the thing, Tom. At the turn of the century, We had the M Street Academy Prep School that produced and fed kids into some of the first four black high schools, public high schools produced for black people. The Dunbar schools, D.C., Baltimore, Lexington, Kentucky, and Fort Worth, Texas. Tom, these schools had a charter to be able to compete with the elite schools, not just exist, not just pass a few students. Their charter was to compete with the elite schools up and down the East Coast of Eastern Coast. And Tom, the DC school did that, except for one private school in the Virginia area. For the tri-state area, I don't know if they call it tri-state. I'm thinking outside of Virginia and Maryland. What was the third state? But they did that, and to such a degree, Tom, that people came in, liberals who figured that there had to be some cheating taking place, had to destroy the Dunbar school system from within. And if you read the graduates from Dunbar, first of all, the educators there all have master's degrees or PhDs, which is unheard of for a public school. But you read the graduates of the Dunbar school system, it reads like the who's who of Black history. But they didn't just stop there with the destruction of the education system, Tom, that we had put in place. They had destroyed the economic base, the Rosewoods, the Greenwoods, and others like that throughout America had to be destroyed because you can't have your own, you can't be developing your own wealth because that gives you too much power. And then the last leg of the stool, Tom, is the family had to be destroyed. Once you destroyed the family, that was a trifecta. We don't have to do any more lifting of any fingers now to destroy the Black community because it's been thoroughly destroyed. So this is what we have to understand, Tom, and educate ourselves internally. Stop relying on public school to educate our kids. We have to do this ourselves, and we have to develop a new mission to rebuild ourselves. We're going to be the new Phoenix that rise from the ashes, and what's going to come out of this is not hand-picked Negroes by white people to tell us what we should and should not be doing, but a new thought that God put us on this earth for a reason. God brought us to this country for a reason, and you are squandering that reason by not understanding what your true value is and what your true place is. Black people, I'm going to say it again, and I'm not ashamed to say it. Black people in America are the most genetically diverse people in this world. We're the most superior people in this world, because of that genetic diversity. All the kids that we chronicle on the show doing great things, Tom, that should be typical. Those are not things that we should find the exemption to the rule. Those should be the rule. That should be, all our kids should be performing at those kind of levels. Harvard should be having a trouble with too many Black kids getting in and having to come up with a quota system for whites and Asians as opposed to the other way around. In time, we should have a tremendous amount of wealth and cohesiveness around the world from coming together. But you're right. We're listening to too many influencers handpicked by okey-doke white people and them being okey-doke themselves, who just want to keep us in these lanes to let us know that we should just focus on entertainment, athletics, or death. Those are the three lanes in America.
All right, I got two comments I want to get to, one from Tanya and one from Chicago News 101. I'll go to Tanya first since she is mentioning what you just said. She said, I'm confused. I thought we just talked about the mayor that needed to kiss the ring of Trump because he was promoting helping one another in the Black community, making sure we're taken care of. And I think she's speaking to the fact that you're saying, no, we've got to do this on our own. But she's saying, wait a minute, aren't you saying that the man needs to kiss the ring?
What I'm saying is that he needs to kiss the ring and be quiet. Don't go out there talking about what you're doing. Don't brag about breaking the law because we do have civil rights laws against discrimination. So you can't be out there saying I'm discriminating when you're going against the administration. So just do it quietly. You want to hire Black people, more power to you.
What she's saying is you're saying out loud what you're going to do. So you're not being quiet about what you're doing.
What I'm saying is that if I was mayor, no one would know what my hiring policies were. I was just telling HR we followed that.
And based upon what you're just saying, what she's saying is, why should you be quiet if you're about trying to build your community?
Because it's against the law to discriminate here. You can't openly talk about robbing banks and killing people and then go out there and do it.
But the country is based upon discrimination, Jimmy.
Yes, it is, Tom, but we still have laws that are on the books where they can use them at will against you. So all I'm saying to Brandon is go kiss the ring to stay out of jail, get them off your back, and quietly quietly hire black people and put them in your administration in key places.
All
Just
right.
don't go to churches giving speeches about what you're doing.
I got you. Well, let me do this. Let me go ahead and get to
What's
Chicago
the
News
second comment?
101 because we got 5 minutes more. And this is in reference to the meeting about the Harold Washington not being mentioned. Said, take apart Abraham Johnson, that is the mayor of Chicago, saying blacks look out for other people's interests, is his way of saying he looks out for other races instead of blacks on purpose. What I mean is seeing the show title Some Black People Names Mentioned in Chicago History Except Harold at today's City Hall meeting, which of course neither of us were at City Hall's meeting today. But
Okay.
Gotcha. So just wanted to make sure we acknowledge the person on the Chicago News 101 and when we were referring to the Brandon Johnson article, Jimmy. And we have got about 4 minutes. Let me see. Jeffrey Jordan, we've got another comment from Jeffrey Jordan. I regret doing and talking about this kind of stuff. You're right. It's against the law. Gee, it was different when it was against you. You hypocrites. Okay, that's coming from Jeffrey Jordan.
Well, yes, when discrimination laws were done overtly and out in the open against us, no one paid attention to the law, all the laws that subsequently came out of that effort, but they did come out and they're on the books now. So not to say that discrimination doesn't still happen. We have the NFL as a prime example where it still happens. So, but you don't see owners out here talking about, yeah, we brought in a black coach or a Negro coach just for show.
Your point, Jimmy, your point is just to do it.
Do it. Don't talk about it. Just do it.
All right, Jimmy, we've got 3 minutes left. And I think the only thing that we may have a minute or two to talk about, of course, we're at the NBA Finals. Yep, we've got the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Minnesota Timberwolves and Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma City are up 1-0 after handling Minnesota last night. And tonight we have the New York Knicks, who are currently playing the Indiana Pacers. So, Jimmy, we are almost there. Two teams that have not either won a championship before or it's been since the 70s since they've won an NBA championship. And it looks like
if SGA is awarded the MVP, I think they're going to announce it today or tonight. If he gets MVP, Tom, they're going to win the championship.
What does one have to do with the other, though? Him winning MVP and winning a championship.
He's going to get the trifecta. He's going to get the hat trick. He'll win MVP, playoff MVP, and his team will win a championship. So if Hannes or the Greek Freak wins, then yeah, it'll be up in the air. But my prediction is that Oklahoma City is going to get the trifecta if SGA gets MVP.
So who is your pick on the Timberwolves and the Thunder, and your pick on the Knicks versus the Pacers?
The Timberwolves, OKC will win that series. I'm not sure about the Pacers. They're pretty scrappy, but New York is pretty scrappy also. You can't count Bronson out, which used to be a Mavs, unfortunately.
Yes,
a lot of great players have come through the Mavs organization. Only watch them success someplace else. But you can't count them out as long as he's on the court, if he's healthy. So, so I'm not sure about that East series, but OKC is going to win it here. Unfortunately, this is just not Ant-Man's time.
Gotcha. I would look at. I would say OKC. When I look at OKC play, man, they've got all the fundamentals there: long, young, tall, athletic. They don't have a bunch of injury problems, and they are just probably the most well-rounded team, I think, in the NBA right now. So I'm gonna go with the Thunder over the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Knicks and the Pacers. I'm gonna agree with you on that one. That's gonna be a pretty scrappy series, Jimmy. Right now, I've not seen the Knicks play a lot. I've seen Indiana play a little bit more than the Knicks right now. But if I had to make a call right now, I'm gonna go with Indiana. But we'll see what happens by next week, because I think both of them are gonna go probably at least 6 games.
Well, the good thing about OKC, Tom, they have a star who keeps them in games. They don't have like these 5-minute droughts where they don't score. If their team is not shooting threes very well, he knows how to get to the free throw line. He knows how to take it to the hole. He knows how to do the short jumper game. But he keeps his team close, at least in striking distance.
Yeah.
And you need someone like that so you don't go a couple of minutes without scoring and find yourself down double digits, and now you're fighting to get back in the game.
And but I will say this: even though I'm calling Indiana, I'm actually pulling for the Knicks because I want Jalen Brunson to get his ring, because I think the Mavericks should have kept Jalen Brunson, and they would probably be in the
They should
playoffs
have,
like
Tom.
they did. So
Yeah, that was a no-brainer now. Looking back, hindsight. Well, even when he was here, he balled in and balled
Yes,
out
he did.
even when he was here.
Yes, he
You
did.
saw what he was capable of. So I'm not sure the politics behind it. Why they
You know what the politics are, Jimmy. They were called Luka. The politics was Luka.
Tom, Luka would have benefited greatly from having Bronson here with him.
But they couldn't keep both of them. They had to choose one because Bronson is a dog, and so they made Luka the face of the team as opposed to Bronson.
He could have still been the face of the team, Tom. It's like Kyrie. You can have two stars here, and Luka could have still been the face of the team. So they could have worked out the logistics of that and the politics of that, where it wouldn't become a strained issue. But all I got to say is that guy's a stud.
He is.
He's a left-hand juggernaut, man, because he knows how to ball. He knows how to keep you in games. He makes impossible shots. He don't mind putting his body out there. He drives to the lane. He's not just selling for jump shots like the other day, the other game with OKC in Minnesota. If you notice, whenever Ant-Man got the ball, you had three OKC players shadowing him, basically cutting off driving lanes, making sure that you are not going to get in here and cause problems for. So he had to sell for jump shots. I think he had maybe 18 points. He made 5 of 19 from the outside with 1 3-pointer. So he had a rough night, Tom, because he couldn't penetrate. But Bronson doesn't have that problem. He's small enough, quick enough, where he can still penetrate defenses and wreak havoc on the inside and distribute ball to open guys, man. So, yeah, that was just a huge blunder on the Mavs part.
And more importantly to me, Jimmy, Bronson actually leads on both sides of the court, offense and defense.
Oh yeah.
And he does his talking on the court, not to the refs.
You don't see him arguing with refs. You don't see him crying about fouls and not getting foul calls. You don't see him putting his team in position for 4-on-5 because you sitting there arguing with the ref and the other team is marching down the court with the ball and everybody's rushed back except you. So, yeah, you don't see that kind of nonsense happening with him, man. And I think he takes his game serious enough as a professional because the guy has done nothing but improve his game year after year, which is what you want to see from a professional player.
Just saying. And that's it for tonight, folks. We're a couple of minutes over time, but I hope you enjoyed this show. Share this with anybody else. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that. We want to thank you for joining us.
I'm sorry, Tom. I got one more shameful shout out. Forgot the book.
Okay.
The new book is coming out. Guys have been telling you about. The soft copy in Kindle is already out. The hard book will be out in a few days. Please go to Amazon. It's called Starlight Requiem. So by yours, D. Jimmy Stewart or DJR Stewart. So help a brother out. If you're tired like I was of not seeing more black folks in the Star Wars universe, you can either cry about it or you can do something about it. I decided to write my own Force Willing story, black love story. So there you are, folks.
All right. Well, congratulations, folks. And we'll see you next week because if it's Wednesday night,
It's certainly Black Man Speak.
Good night, everyone.